Welcome to another episode of the Hali Hewa Podcast with your host, Abigael Kima. On this particular episode, we will be spotlighting the program Voices for Just Climate Action, and today I am joined by a very wonderful guest, Gertrude Tala from Women Empowerment Link, and we will be discussing everything women leadership in climate. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so please introduce yourself to the audience. Tell us who you are, what you do.
My name is Gertrude Tala. I work with Women's Empowerment Link. It's actually Women's
Women
Empowerment. Yeah. A lot of people say Women Empowerment, but that's the name of the organization. We are a partner at VCA under Akina Mama Africa, which is mostly working with women rights organization and feminist organization. We are a women's rights organization. And I work as a project lead for the VCA project, working at the intersection of gender and climate justice.
Amazing.
Yes. Wow.
Great. So I joined VCA pretty much towards the end, but I have always been inspired by the kind of work that the program itself has been doing. It's an advocacy program and it is quite cross-sectional. Like you'll always find someone doing something in the space that is unique, and being able to combine efforts from all the partners with their strengths that they have has been quite inspirational for me to watch. That's why it was important for me to even spotlight some of the work that has been happening. So with VCA, what exactly has Women's Empowerment Link been doing in terms of how does it align with the values that you're already working on?
So as organization, we as I've said, we work on issues of gender, but our key population, or rather our target group, are usually women in all their diversity. And we work with rural women, urban women, women living with women with disability, women living with HIV and AIDS, and all sorts of women, so to speak. And if we look at the values that VCA have, we are trying to amplify voices that have been forgotten, the ones that are usually sidelined, the ones that are usually quieted most of the time. And you know that women are among these groups. And our purpose and our intention in VCA is to ensure that women voices are amplified and their lived realities are taken into account when decisions are made, when policies and programs are put in place. Yeah.
Great. So when we talk about climate issues, most of the time we get this statement where we say women are disproportionately affected by the impacts of climate change.
Yeah.
So for someone who maybe has never interacted with such content, how would you break it down for them?
Yeah, so maybe I'll start. It's the disproportionate effects are in different areas. Maybe I can start by their lived reality, as I've spoken, as I've said. You find that because their voice are not usually amplified when maybe decisions are made, their experiences are not taken into account. For example, and normally we say that there's no in our gender work, we say that there's no a single issue problem. Like there is no particular person who's just being affected by climate crisis. So when policies are put in place or when decisions are being made, if they're not taken into account, we'll not look at injustices that have been there even before climate crisis come in place. So you find that women are especially in our context, and I'll speak specifically about Homa Bay County where I work in Rusinga and Fangano Island. A lot of women have not gotten enough education. Most of them are semi-literate or some are actually literate. We go to communities and some of the people are not able to write their names. And when you look at decision-making places or platform, they're elitist. You find that people who are allowed to, especially when it comes to climate change, there are a lot of jargons that are used there. There's, big words. So when decisions are being made, you find that such women will not be included in such platforms. So you find that then the way they're affected will not, or rather in ways which they're affected will not be put into place when decisions are being made. But even when you come now to the effects themselves, we find that women take, or rather in our context, which is a patriarchal system in our communities, women are already doing a lot of unpaid care work. And climate change, when climate change come into place, the unpaid care work is intensified. For example, when it comes to maybe finding food, for example, maybe looking for vegetables, looking for meals, like in my context, it's getting fish or, the food for people to take. You find that that work is intensified because of climate crisis. Now there's no fish. And in our context, it's something called sex for fish. So you find that women are forced to engage into sexual, and they get harassed. That is GBV being intensified because of climate crisis. And and that those things mostly happen to women because boat owners are men. So it's specifically to women. So again, I was speaking about unpaid care work. I think I jumped quickly to that because it's a specific issue that we encounter in Homa Bay. And I've seen it, and women say it all the time when we have meetings. So coming to unpaid care work, of course, getting food is one of it. Taking care of the sick in the community, especially in the rural areas, there's always a grandmother, a mother-in-law sick. That work is done by women. And of course, in the face of climate crisis, there are a lot of waterborne diseases, especially during floods. Children are sick. That work is a lot. Where they're getting now, when it comes to during dry season, yes, you have the lake, and people assume that because Homa Bay and the lake region, there's always water. Let's remember that water is not also safe to drink. So there's still water challenges, but also find beyond that, there are people who come. I won't even talk of Homa Bay. I come from Nyakach County, where we experience floods and droughts in the same measure. So during drought season, people have to travel very far to get water. So that is work that if I'm calling the women to their decision-making space, that woman won't make it because she has to go and fetch water several kilometers away. And of course, then the unpaid, that kind of unpaid care work is increased because more hours is taken to go. And of course, maybe she was fetching water. Maybe she was depending on the rainwater. A lot of them have these tanks where they collect rainwater, but the tank is never big enough to accommodate them throughout the year. But also, you know that water will need to be safe to use throughout the year. So when there's, for example, droughts, they have to now go to the rivers, which are mostly seasonal. And probably the seasonal one is dry, so they have to go to the next village and the next village to get water. So they are the ones who are taking, they're the ones who are doing all this kind of work, and it's so much. And of course, when it's so much, sometimes even the spouse understanding does not understand why you're taking too long. And if the communication between the two for married women is not there, you find that GBV is increased. You find that some of them, they're going to fetch that water from my own village. My aunties and my mom said before right now we have tanks and all that. But before then, they used to go and get the water at 5 or 4
in the morning.
Yes. So that they can find the clean water before everyone else is using it. And so if they have to fetch it at 4, if they meet someone who's not in the right sense of mind, so to speak, or if I may call it, they might get raped.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot that can happen in there. And they were actually, and I'm sorry if this will trigger anyone, they're actually talking of a snake. Our place is not for a specific snake. They're talking of that they used to find a snake there. And they would be still for the snake to drink water before they can fetch. You see how risky it is for them. I would never go and get that water. If it were me, I would never. But you see even their own security. So yeah, of course, that unpaid care work is intensified. And when it is intensified, they're not able to participate in decision-making platform. If they're members of, for example, the World Climate Change Committee, the committee will be holding a meeting and she won't be there because she's tired. She woke up at 5. Maybe she has the farm to still till and to go to the lake, maybe to buy fish. And, there's just a lot that is intensified when there's in the face of climate crisis for women, but also the fact that decisions are made at there's a certain kind of people who are thought to be the ones who can give their opinions and voice out issues in the society. You find that they are left. So even the programs, policies that are put in place do not even favor them. Sometimes those programs increase their vulnerability. There are moments when they increase their vulnerability. For example, there are times when the seeds that are given are not, we know the issues of indigenous seeds. You realize that there are certain seeds that have been brought that do not even favor the climate itself. Maybe they're being sold. Maybe you need to buy fertilizers. And of course, women cannot afford these things. So sometimes because of their absence, yet they are very important people and have knowledge. They have innovation. They have a lot of indigenous knowledge. The decisions that are made are void of their opinion and the knowledge and the innovation that they would have brought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Did I catch you?
No, thank you.
No, I agree with you. And it's very interesting to hear. I think I've never even thought there would be something like sex for fish. That is diabolical. And it continues to show just how much the issues of women are so layered. They are so multi-layered. And you can never say that you truly understand through what women go through. And of course, the issue of unpaid care work. And back in 2022, I also did a story on women, but we were in, was it Bungoma and Busia? And it's the same issues that you're raising. The gender-based violence because of lack of understanding in the house. The issue of having to go fetch water very early in the morning, their safety. And so it seems like women are going through similar experiences wherever they are. And now their challenges are exacerbated by impacts of climate change. And so what have you as Women's Empowerment Link tried to do in, of course, bringing the women to the table? Because like you said, because of unpaid care work and all the other challenges they have, most of the time they're not in the room when it matters. But are there steps that you have at least tried to take as well to try and bring them to the table? And can you say you've had situations where you've seen women in the room actually influencing a decision? Yeah.
So I remember when we came in the county, maybe there were other organizations who are doing the same work, but I feel like the timing was right. First, because the policies were, it was the time when counties were required to come up with the framework, the policy, the Climate Change Act, the Climate Change Fund Regulation, the PCRA report, just so that a lot of counties would qualify for FLOCA, the financing for locally led climate action, which is funding from World Bank. And maybe I'll get to a point and I'll speak more about that. And so for us, we were able to, we knew that will be a good opportunity for first money to trickle down to communities. And we know that when it trickled out to communities, then women are there. And we knew when that time comes, we will also prepare the women. So us just participating in that process, and we try to invite and actually use women at decision-making spaces, influence the women members of the county assembly to push for that the framework to be, especially the Climate Change Act. Actually, that's what was remaining for Homa Bay County at least. And we encouraged them to ensure that they passed the bill, and we got an act in 2022. So during the same time when we were having the CADP going on, we were able to bring the women. And I think by the ward administrators seeing the way women were vibrant and knowing that a lot of them were taking part in climate-related projects or just taking climate action, two of them were actually appointed to the Ward Climate Change Committee, one in each wards. And remember that for the Ward Climate Change Committees, for us at least, we only have 2 women. So that was like half of the women were the women that we were working with. And I know in other places there were elections held. For us, that wasn't the case. The appointments were made, but it was, I'm glad that even if the appointments were made, I did not influence. I was actually shocked to find out that the women are in the list. And also the women were just spotted based on what they were doing. But over and beyond that, there's also a time we were trying now to ensure that these World Climate Change committees actually know what they're doing, because we found out that some of the people who are put in the committees know nothing about climate change, and actually, when we're talking about FLOCA, most of them had heard about the word but didn't know what was going on. And we took an opportunity to call. We took the responsibility to call the director who is knowledgeable about the FLOCA program. FLOCA is financing locally led climate action, and he was able to explain to the committees how much the county has received, both for the administrative work and also for the projects. He was able to explain what projects are complete, where they are, or which ones will be done. By that time, they were not complete, but really which ones will be done, what kind of projects they will be, and also how the community can engage. And for us, that was a win, because now moving from there, the committee knew what their responsibility is, what is taking place. And I know the directorate has said before that they lack enough money for capacity building, but unfortunately, yes, we'd want to rely on them, but if we depend on them, the community remain knowledgeable about what is happening. So we just thought it's good to step up and just bring the committee together and ensure that they are knowledgeable about what is taking place in the community. And also for us, because women are very important to us, beyond that kind of a training, we keep a creative platform for women to increase their confidence, their debating skills, to get more empowered to be better leaders, because we know we do not want women to be the ones serving tea and, doing the last prayer in those committees. We want them to be to give ideas, to speak about their rights, and to speak on behalf of other women and girls in the community. So we ensure that we create spaces. For example, we've in other programs that we've had, a partner that we've had forums where they're able to get mentored by like women, the MCA, the female MCA, members of county assembly, and other women leaders in the community, for them to aspire to be leaders. And from that, we have one of those two women. One of them is the vice chair to the committee. Yeah, and she's able to speak whenever there's an opportunity to do that without fear.
Yeah. When you talk about committees, let's take it back to our audience who probably don't know what FLOCA is.
Yeah.
Don't know what committee we're talking about. Yes. So tell us how FLOCA essentially has worked in Homa Bay County, what projects you've been able to implement, and how women are showing up in those spaces.
So I'll start by committees. There are 3 committees. We have a County Climate Change Planning Committee. There's a steering committee. That's the one I had forgotten. There is a county steering committee. Those are at the county level, and most of them are full of ministers. Mostly one representative from the CSO, as someone who's not in the government, but most of them are like ministers. And one of them, actually, I think the County Climate Change Planning Committee is headed by the governor, and it's mostly people working with the county government. But this World Climate Change Committee is where the community come in, and there's members of the working with the still county government, but at the lower level. But also there's a big group from the community, leaders, community leaders like church elders, village elders. There's a representative a person with disability. There's just those categories from the community. And this community, remember that ward is the lowest level of governance in Kenya. So it's meant to reach the community easily, because we know that, of course, these structures were put in place because we were anticipating FLOCA, which is financing locally led climate action. When you say locally led, then we're talking about community.
Community, yeah.
Yeah. So I know if I get into FLOCA, as I've said, FLOCA is financing locally led climate action, which is a project, but it's funded by the World Bank. And it's a loan to our national government, but a grant at the county level. So ultimately, as citizens, we will pay the loan. And that's why we, as a civil society, are very keen in ensuring that we do social audits. We make sure that the money is meant to do what it's supposed to do. And so sometimes we try to push the community a bit to also to make sure they keep the people in place, of the people who are doing that kind of work accountable, because indirectly they will still pay
Yeah.
for the money. So we keep reminding them that this is a loan. It might look like a grant, but it is a loan. You will pay it through the sugar you buy, through the, the rates you pay for whatever, the taxes that are put in place. So yeah, it's that way. But now for us in Homa Bay, it has funded 40 water projects. Water projects, I don't know why. We did a participatory climate risk assessment, which was an assessment to look at, was an assessment that was meant to look at the climate risk in each region. I'm not sure whether our issues are water issues altogether, like all of them, because we have the lake. Yes, I said there are areas where even if we have the lake, water is an issue, but there are areas which even get flooded most of the times. And I think there are other methods we can use. Plus, there's the county projects that still do water projects. I think there's also there could be national water projects. So I feel that there could be places where we would have had other projects. But nonetheless, right now we have 39 out of those 40 projects complete. There's still issues in there. We can get to that at another point, another discussion altogether, but those ones are complete. But over and beyond that, our county went ahead and wanted to make this financing more local and identified 2 groups per ward. Remember, we have 40 wards, 2 groups per ward. Those groups are either women group or youth groups, and they were financed. They were given 150,000 Kenya shillings to start 3 seedlings. Remember, our government is looking at 15 billion trees. So those groups are the ones who will be selling to the government. And
essentially having the government as their main customer.
Yes.
And can they sell to other people?
Yeah, for sure. We're actually hoping that now the sale will happen because they've been given the money, the projects are there. I've visited projects, I've seen projects, I've helped women to make sure, because maybe I didn't mention, but 2 of the women groups we work with qualified. Proposals were sent out, they were picking the forms at the ward administrator, they were filling them. We supported a few women who were interested to fill those forms, to, sometimes these things are very hard for them because of also logistics, because we live in island. So that happened and they received the money, the projects are there. The part where the government buys, that is where we've not reached, but we are hoping they will. But the groups are also open to sell to any other person in the community for sure.
Oh, yeah. Right. So now, with how, of course, FLOCA has been implemented in Homa Bay, would you say the community is actively involved? Are people receiving it well? And would you say, essentially, like you said, the social audit, is it actually happening? Are people keeping tabs on what the government is doing in those committees?
So I'll say that because the proposal was sent out, and I can imagine it's not only the one group that received or the 2 groups that were given per ward that applied. Of course, the word went out more. Them knowing that, FLOCA is there, we are applying, we didn't get, this group got, they can go and see what they're doing. So I think the word went out more. And also now that the projects are there, a few people know. Actually, when you I went for a public participation and I had them say, that water is for FLOCA. So yeah, at least the people who are there knew. I feel like the word is out, but it's not as known as it should be. I don't think if you do a mapping of 50 women, you'll find like 30 of them know about FLOCA. And we're doing the best we can. Even just last week, which is yesterday, I've been having mentorship program for women groups, a lot of them. I think I did 320 women altogether. And in those forums, I made sure I mentioned, do you know about FLOCA? Did you apply? Yeah, we always try to have those conversations in those platforms and say, do you know this group got the FLOCA money? Do you know it was free money? So we try and create awareness. And I don't know what the other question was. A social audit. Social audit, yes. Maybe if I speak into that, the Treasury has really tried. I don't know whether you're aware of this, but there is a CSO, I don't know how to call it, but more like a framework from the national level to the county level. So what happened? Every county was tasked through the Directorate of Climate Change to appoint a CSO representative for FLOCA. So we have ours. I did the election. It was very hard, but we elected a woman because we went to have a voice. Because in Homa Bay, we have people who are quite vocal, so it was really hard to know who can. But for me, of course, women being in decision-making places influenced my choice, and she was largely elected. Ours is called she's called Leon, and she's doing a good job. So they went for trainings on how to ensure that these projects are taking place at their different counties. And then, of course, they did the training. Then we later on they've cascaded it. We had a regional training. I went for the regional training as someone who's been working with community on issues of FLOCA. So they appointed around 6 representatives working around the issues of FLOCA from different regions, from different thematic areas. Remember, I'm working at the intersection of gender and climate change. So I was invited, there was a youth invited, there was a person with disability. It was quite, there was an activist. It was interesting. She tried to look for people from diverse spaces. So we went for the training. And also now we are planning, actually Women's Empowerment Link is planning to go and do some sort of a small social audit in the coming week or two. So we came up with a work plan on how we'll do our work in our different counties. The training was happening per region, so we were in the Lake region. We met with Kisumu, Siaya, Migori, Kisii. Those counties are the Lake region. And then we did a work plan by ourselves, and I also Women's Empowerment Link, when we came back, we tried to meet again together, come beef up that, and we're planning to do social audits, more of those. So
So with the work that you're doing, of course, under VCA, and now that we are coming to an end, what is the one thing you would say that if VCA is ending today, you would say, I am glad this is one achievement? It doesn't have to be one, but essentially when you look at the kind of work you've been able to do, especially with the women grassroots work, and it's very inspirational. I see how passionate you are about it. What would you say is the one thing that you can say for sure, if it wasn't for VCA, we wouldn't have done this?
Allow me to mention 2. I'll say one at the policy level and then one at the community level. I'll start with the community level. I'm glad that today, if women know that they've been doing something for us, at least for me as an individual, when I thought I'm coming to, train women about adaptive capacity. These women have been there. They know their issues and they know their solutions. What was lacking was maybe, I'd say, financing and an enabling environment for them to be able to do these things. But our stay there and our interaction with them has made them realize that when things are there, they deserve it. Just affirming them, realizing them, you belong at the decision-making position, decision-making space, you deserve the funding that is being advertised, and you can actually qualify for it. And over and beyond, of course, VCA was giving out the next level grant facility to communities. And a number of them got, actually that affirmed a lot of groups to realize that we can actually do a proposal and apply for funding and get it. So that, coupled with now a few of them getting FLOCA, they realize, kumbe we can be doing proposals. A lot of them are going ahead to revamp their constitution and realizing that they are capable. For me, it activates them. Activates them. Because I'm sorry to interject, but of course, NLGF is a very huge part of the work that we've done at VCA. And for me, when we were actually going through, I think we were reviewing some of those applications, and I love how simple it was. And I remember when we were doing an assessment, you go to a small group of people, women, old men, and the way they're keeping the record is still, that old, is it called 3 Choir? I don't know. I don't remember the name of that book, but it's the Black Book. Like they have records of their contributions, and these people are actually trying to transform their communities and their lives without necessarily getting the finances. And now, knowing that, we can actually, like you said, they know they can tap into the opportunities that you've given them to activate them. It's actually very important. Yeah, and also not just those who get, people saying, that group, we know them. We will see them. They've received. We feel like we're even better than them. Meaning we can also receive. Exactly. So that, just that motivation And I think for me, I'm leaving the group with that motive. Even just yesterday, I've been, as I've said, for the last 4 days or 5 days, I've been interacting with groups a lot, and I've been telling them, you know what, you're capable. And when the money is there, when everyone is running for it, to apply for it, remember that you're doing so much that you're not saying. And actually, before that, I had done an assessment. I was shocked at how much women that we've thought are just doing this small and how much they're doing. They're doing more than we thought. So just telling them, you know, you're doing so much. I was shocked when I was doing the assessment. So you deserve to be at the decision-making place. Some of them, I encourage them to register CBO because the way they're operating, they're not just a group. Some are buying sanitary towels for girls with their savings, 50 bob. They're saying, well, they save the 300 for Chama, then they're saving 50 bob for the girls because, of course, climate crisis and teenage pregnancy is increasing and all that. Yeah. That is at the group level. At the policy level, we've tried to push back for sure. We really push back and also push in front because when we came, there's a lot that other organizations had done without success. It is when we came when we were able to bring the MCAs together and tell them, you know what, you either choose to have the frameworks in place or you miss out on the opportunities that are there. And we brought someone to explain what Floka was going to do. And they were like, actually, our photographer was keen to take that picture. Why should Homa Bay miss out on this opportunity? And that's what we keep asking them. Why should Homa Bay miss out on the opportunities that are there? Because you are refusing to maybe pass a bill for whatever reason. Because organization had really supported these sittings and the bill was just there for several years and became, I'd say, maybe at the right time, but I'm glad that we, together with another partner from VCA called CATS, were able to converge the MCAs and the bill passed. And now we have a framework. But last year, there was an amendment that was taking place and we did a memorandum. I invited the CSO network. The good thing with Homa Bay, we are together, the CSO network. I invited, we actually, they mobilized. I just informed the secretary and then we say, can we do this? She mobilizes and we come together. It's very simple sitting, sometimes in a room like this. And we look at the bill and look at gaps. And we try to bring in community voice. What is this bill that is not favorable to the community? And when we talked to the lawyer, he said that I'm here to say the final version, but he said 70% of what you put in place was taken into account. And for me, it's when we look at such policies and we make them better. For us, being gender transformative is important. A bill being gender, we just don't need a bill or rather the act. We need it to be taking care of community needs. I know there is a lot that, for example, the number of members in the WCCP, should we just have 2 members out of 9? It's not a 2/3. That's not 2/3 gender role. So we've done a lot of that when it comes to the policy space, at advocacy space. So those 2 things for me.
Amazing. All I can say is good job. Like I said, every person I speak to who has implemented VCA is always such an inspiration. And of course, we would still want to be able to sustain some of these gains that we've seen over the last couple of years. So now my last question is, so what next for Women Empowerment Link after the closeout? But also, I know you did mention you still have other programs at Women's Empowerment Link, but what are you looking to do more of, which has come out of the implementation of VCA?
I think for me, the bit about locally led dawned to me in the course of the work that I was doing. And in as much as I might not actively be engaged in maybe any implementation at the moment, at least with the VCA project, but I told the communities that I'm always around to support. If they want to, because there are still a lot, maybe the government sometimes has a program, they want to engage them. We are still around to support communities to go on with the things they've been doing. If there's a funding, and for us, we're not usually shy to say, oh, you're supported by this other organization, because if we didn't strengthen their capacity, sometimes they even bring the application, can you look at it? Is it good? And we correct here and there. If we didn't do that, then they wouldn't have qualified. And to us, that's the role we stand to play in the community. Again, as you've said, the moment we sat with the CSO network and looked at our policy, we didn't even have males, and we're still available to do that. So with or without that, with or without like funding running, as long as we are there, I will even join on Zoom and we look at our bill and look at it and we will revise it and we'll present a memo still, even now. So for us, we've identified ways in which we can continue the work we are doing. And we also open to partnership. We've worked with a lot of partners. For us, the network is very important aspect. And because we have expertise still, we are still able to engage at the same capacity for sure.
Yeah. Amazing. So the power of collaboration, of networking, and of course, along the way, you've met partners who eventually you've even had to implement projects together. But yeah, thank you. Is there anything else you feel like I haven't asked and you'd love to share with the audience?
No, maybe I'd just say, I want us to realize that there is a lot happening in the community, that we should never look at a community as someone that we are going to help. The community is already doing a lot to even help themselves. The only thing that we go, and for us, we avoid saying something like capacity building. We're just enhancing, we're just creating an enabling environment. We're maybe linking them with finances. There's a lot that is happening. And whenever we go to the community, let us not go with the mentality that we know everything and they're recipient. Sometimes there's so much to learn from them. And for me, I remember like when going to the community I work with, even just language was a problem for me. The language, because I speak their native language, but I was struggling. Learning terminology, it was like they've given me some, I've left that place speaking it better. And so just realizing that the community usually have solutions. It's important to sit with them and then look at areas where you can strengthen them and do that. So especially this climate work where a lot of us are coming with jargons and a lot of, solutions that have been tailored in the, a friend of mine usually say, AC, a room with an AC. I don't know the way she says it, but and you're taking it to the community and you want them to swallow by force. No, before you do that, realize that they existed before you did.
Yeah. Essentially, seeing communities. I was actually on a panel the other day and I was saying how we need to stop seeing communities as beneficiaries, but as innovators and collaborators and the people who essentially know what they want. And so it was really nice having you on the podcast. Very important issues you've highlighted on the plight of women, what we mean when we say women are disproportionately affected by the impacts of climate change, and just essentially seeing what women can do when they're given the platforms to really be the best version of themselves owing to the trainings, the mentorship that they're receiving. So thank you so much. This was Hali Hewa Podcast, again spotlighting VCA. So see you on the next one.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.